and tarte aux pommes alsacienne. In our garden, we also had bushes of groseille, tart red currants that are a regional specialty. My mother and I love to make pies with these tiny berries. The season for red currants is short, and oh, how we looked forward to this once-a-year treat, which somehow exemplifies for me the French woman's psychological pleasure in food. It's the anticipation and joy that we gain from a pleasure we cannot take for granted and know we will soon lose. Tasting such seasonal bounty heightens our awareness of what we put into our mouth and contrasts with routine, mindless eating that provides little pleasure and often unwanted pounds. These days, an image I carry around with me is of two airports. At O'Hare International in Chicago, people all around me in the terminal were gulping down hamburgers, fries, and pizza and knocking back big tubs of soda or coffee as they tapped away on their laptops, talked on their cell phones, and flipped through newspapers. Most remarkable, it was 10 a.m. Why were they even eating? I asked myself. Breakfast? Early lunch? Or just a way to pass the time? And most of the people I saw were significantly overweight. Plus, I could not detect pleasure on a single face. The airport-cum food court may be a sign of the times, but not quite yet in France. At Charles de Gaulle, or Roissy as the French call it, when French people eat, they still generally sit down with a knife and fork at enclosed cafeterias or restaurants. There are small stand-up bars for those who want a quick croissant and a cup of coffee, but have you seen a typical French cup of coffee? 3 sips, 4 max. No frappuccino gargantuoso con latteria, or whatever. Things in France are not yet set up to accommodate the contemporary culture of excess. But in the odd corner, you do find people engaging in alien habits, with 2 sandwiches, an iPod, and a magazine feeding them all at once. But in France, they are the exception. In America, they rule. Ever since that day in Chicago, whenever I see such scenes, I think of a quote by Brillat Savarin, the 18th century modern gastronome, well known for his writings and meditations on the physiology of taste, and for his famous dictum, "We are what we eat." But he also wrote even more revealingly, "The destiny of a nation depends on how it feeds itself." Even Paris, famed as the world capital of slender women, is not immune to the growing culture of excess and the global breakdown in traditional ways of eating. Fast food chains arrived years ago on the Boulevard Saint-Germain and the Champs-Élysées. French women are not immune to the primal urges for the sweet and salty that make fast food appealing. But even more important, they are not exempt from the pressures of living and working in a globalized world that erodes traditional local values and speeds up the pace of life, leaving less time for savoring food as our parents did. As eating becomes less and less a family affair, mothers and fathers neglect to teach their children the right way to eat. Bad habits rush to fill the void. There's even a public service ad campaign in France with the slogan, "Obésité tue," obesity kills. Make no mistake, overeating is an approaching global epidemic. Unless we get our act together, in one generation, the French will be as dangerously overweight as many Americans and other nationalities. Long ago, I made the connection that a serious interest in food, this pillar of the French lifestyle, is the main reason that, overwhelmingly and by tradition, French women don't get fat. My first book was addressed to the untold legions of diet victims whom I urged to reject the twin hoaxes of 1, deprivation is the key to weight loss, and 2, indulgence is to blame for weight gain. Pleasure has proved to be the most powerful and lasting motivation, even more compelling than the dream of dropping a dress size. Actually, it was just common sense reborn. If we can all harness the pleasure principle, we can lose weight, as French women have done for generations. All we need is to learn a sense of proportion and cultivate our appreciation of taste. Do that and we should never feel deprived. I asked for a commitment of months, not weeks, but the promise in return was results that last. I'm hardly a champion of France in all things, just in some. And it's not out of some precious snobbery that I reject many of the things on supermarket shelves. When foods are bursting with natural taste, as opposed to being artificially flavored, laden with fat and salt, or just plain tasteless, the experience of eating them is more satisfying, and we can content ourselves with less. And so, when French women exult over some perfectly ripe melon, they are making a spectacle not just of themselves, but of their capacity to register real degrees of difference, a talent nurtured by a culture in which things are harvested in season and bought fresh. This capacity, more than anything else, is their secret weapon in not getting fat. The pleasure of quality more than offsets the temptation of unlimited quantity. French DNA is not necessary for the experience. French women have a lifetime of exposure to and cultivated appreciation of the good stuff. This is something we can all develop. Helping to cultivate that knack, which requires an awareness of what each season has to offer, and thereby learn to reap all the invigorating benefits, is one of my main purposes in writing this book. Cost? Yes, better things generally, though not always, cost more. But many of the pleasures I suggest are inexpensive, from walking or bicycling to avoiding building transportation costs by buying local produce in season. The French do spend more per capita on food than, for instance, Americans or the British, but by eating better, you eat less. Education is crucial. People need to understand what they're putting in their bodies. What are the consequences of drinking 8 or 10 ounces of orange juice in the morning? Even something as simple as bottled water requires attention. All bottled waters are not created equal. Read the label. Some of the best-selling brands have high levels of sodium, which people with high blood pressure or heart disease should avoid, and many mineral-rich waters have high calcium levels, which should be a red alert to those susceptible to kidney stones. Cooking is also education. It raises your awareness of what you're feeding your body and when, sharpens your taste buds, and can help you develop the sort of relationship with food that inhibits overeating. Anybody can learn to cook. Involving children in cooking and taking them food shopping can make a huge difference in their lives. Cooking doesn't have to be difficult or time-consuming when the ingredients are fresh and good. The best preparations are the simplest. Of course, quality of life, French or otherwise, requires more than good food. The joy of living is in direct proportion to how much pleasure you know how to derive from every aspect of living. As I will describe, the French lifestyle offers examples of delicious experience beyond just the gastronomic. Everything from how we move to how we groom ourselves to how we greet each day has the potential for unlocking pleasure and making life feel fuller. There is, after all, more to life than not getting fat. Here's a secret of pleasure in a nutshell. Change the way you think, and the way you eat will follow. Change the way you eat, and the pounds will take care of themselves. Conversely, let a diet book dictate how, what, where, and when you eat, and you will learn nothing, only postpone the inevitable relapse. In French Women Don't Get Fat, I laid out the basics for a do-it-yourself turnaround, a path to weight loss and a happy equilibrium, that weight at which one feels bien dans sa peau, comfortable in one's skin. Now we proceed peu à peu, little by little, so that you're reborn for life, not just for the bikini season. This audio program is a source of suggestions to take you through 1 year and years to come of continually inventing and embracing pleasurable experience, the key to the good life as the French enjoy it. It is about embracing the seasons and seasonality and making eating and savoring life a more intense experience. In the late 19th century, American painters came to Barbizon to learn about art from the world's undisputed masters. A generation or so later, it was the French painters seeking to learn from the Americans. As long as the lamp of Frenchwomen remains lit.